this is going to be episode 10. Correct, Ty?
Yes.
Yeah, this will be
episode 10.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is the
Still not sure on the episode numbers. We're not sure. It could be 11, could be 9. We don't know.
Yeah.
That's saying we actually post this episode. You never know how horrible it's going to be.
All right, we're back with episode 10 of the Tournament Committee podcast presented by the JPT. We're here with the boys plus Mike White from Yellow Card Coach. We're going to have an in-depth conversation on what Mike does day to day, how he helps players on the golf course and in life. And we're very, very excited for everyone to hear this conversation, as I think all of us think that this is very valuable for junior golfers in particular. The players that Mike's worked with already have shown improvements, especially in the last 2 years since we've been working with Mike. It's great to see. So thanks very much to Mike White from Yellow Card Coach for joining us. And Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm always excited to sit down and chat with you guys.
Absolutely, we appreciate it. So I guess let's start by you just telling us a little bit about A, yourself, and then B, Yellow Card Coach, how it started, where the name came from, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, long story. I'll try and keep it as short as I can here. But my background originally is actually in marketing, so it's business. And I owned and operated a marketing agency since 1997. So I'm dating myself here, but it was all about teaching brands, teaching companies and individuals, entrepreneurs about their brand and about who they were as a brand, how to represent their brand, and what a brand actually is. And so fast forward to what I do today with kids and junior golf and professional golfers even, it's about understanding who you are as a person and how you interact with the game. Obviously, the game is so important, but how we interact with the game is really, that's the mindset part. And that's kind of what I do. The way it started was in 2013. I'll tell you the whole story. Yellow Card Coach came about, in 2013, I had business change a little bit, lost a lot of business into a US company. Literally 24 hours later, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. So I had a bunch of stuff just sort of pile on top of me. So we talk about adversity a lot in what I do. I was bombarded with adversity in a very short period of time and sort of lost control a little bit, didn't know where to go, didn't know what I was doing next. And I ended up reaching out to a life coaching course to try and help myself get through the turmoil. And taking this course, it's about a 2-year course in total. And in taking the course, what I realized was not only were the tools super valuable for me, but I was really good at teaching it. So I started in 2013, really starting to lean more towards the coaching. At the time, it was more life coaching. And then I sort of evolved into sport and sport mental training, if you will, which I now call mindset training. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the drive for me was my own personal struggles. And that's what sort of moved me forward. And I think a lot of people who teach mindset, who teach a lot of things, are sort of in a position where they need to learn exactly what they teach. And sometimes the best teachers are those who teach because they need to learn as well. And I think that's why I got into it. I think there's a certain element that still exists with that. And it drives me, and it's about connecting with people, and it's about connecting on a personal level. And that's what I believe is my strength with regards to my coaching is I connect on a level that allows people to come forward with what's really, really bothering them. And when we find out what's underneath the surface, then we can crack through and we can create new products and or new strategies and so forth to be able to make them better on the other side.
Yeah, I just kind of touch on that. I think the one thing I've noticed, even just talking to like people that have interacted at their events, like Dusty, one of our partners, you can immediately tell with you that you like really care and are passionate about it. Like Dusty was like, man, he really loves this. That's for sure. Which comes through in every conversation. Even when at dinner, like you can tell you really love doing it, which I think is a huge benefit because some people are just doing it for a paycheck. You actually are looking to help people, whether it's one of your clients or not, just kind of get that conversation going and help anybody. So that's definitely something that shines through pretty easily.
I'm glad to hear that. And it is interesting you say that because it's, and maybe it's a differentiator. I care, I care about the wellness of the people that I coach. And I've said it many times. I almost become friends with most of my clients. And, you know, whether or not I coached a client 10 years ago or whether I'm coaching someone right now, you know, we stay in touch, and I try and constantly follow up. And you know, hey, if we can help one person be better, then we're doing a good job. And I'm a huge proponent of, you know, your legacy is what people say about you when you leave the room. And I think that's really important. I try and live that legacy and try and treat people with kindness, because I think that's what we need. We need more people treating each other with kindness, especially these days. It's insane out there. So kindness is key for me. And not just, you know, open the door for somebody, but hey, you got something on your lip, you know, wipe that away kind of thing. Kindness. We're not talking about just simple things, but we're talking about, you know, kindness, not being nice.
And just to echo off what Shazi said, as a personal antidote, you practice what you preach, Mike. As Shazi just said, you were very much in this to help people. You're in this to help. Obviously, you've been through quite a lot yourself, as you just mentioned, into how this launched your journey into this grief counseling and lifestyle coaching. But you practice what you preach. You're all about just helping people. Obviously, you have a business. Obviously, you have a bottom line that you have to keep up. But at the end of the day, there's been so many times where you're just like, if I can just connect with someone and help any player, any person in any way you can, knowing you from 2 to 3 years, that's been your number one from the start. So just to kind of echo off of what you just said and what Shazi just said, you are absolutely correct, and that's what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. Yeah, it's it's an important one. I really believe that you know, doing the right thing is the right thing to do, right? And a lot of times we do things because we think we should, or a lot of times we do things because we expect something in return. And my big thing is do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And you do that, that's going to pay dividends for you more than anything else down the road, in my estimation. I've seen it. I will tell you guys the yellow car story, though. So yellow car came around when, actually, I thought about in 2013, 2014 when we created yellow car, but the way it evolved is that when I was a little kid, like 5, 6 years old, my dad had a good buddy in Montreal. We lived in Toronto, and we'd do the 5-hour commute back and forth to Montreal. And my dad, to shut my sister and I up in the back seat, he created a game called Yellow Car, which of course was look and identify as many yellow cars on the road trip as you possibly can. Those who saw more won the game. I was super competitive kid, so I'm dialed in looking for yellow cars. I don't think my sister really cared, period. But nonetheless, it was amazing when you thought about yellow cars and you focused on yellow cars, how many you saw. And it wasn't because there was more yellow cars out there. It was because your focus and your attention was on yellow cars. So what I realized in a hurry is that, you know, if I'm focusing on yellow cars, I'm going to see yellow cars. If I focus on better ball striking, I'm going to have better ball striking. If I focus on making better decisions on the course, I'm going to make better decisions on the course. If I, you know, so much of where our focus goes, things show up for us. And so that's essentially the yellow car story. And my tagline, as you guys know, is what you focus on, you attract. And we do it subconsciously. We don't even realize we're doing it subconsciously, but so often we're getting exactly what we're thinking about. Sometimes we don't realize we're thinking about it. And that's what I do with a lot of my clients is I help them identify that this is what you're actually thinking about. And this is where you put your focus on. Let's retune that focus. Someone said to me years ago, I thought it was brilliant, was if you don't like the view from the chair you're in, then take a different seat. Right? If you look at things from a different perspective, and I always say your perspective dictates your experience, 100% your experience is going to change. You just need to look at it differently. So that's really in a nutshell what I teach. And that comes from the yellow car story, what you focus on, you attract.
It all comes together.
So I wear a yellow watch.
If only the Islanders could focus on winning a hockey game recently.
Don't get me going about my Leafs.
Well, they're playing each other tonight.
Yeah, it's the game. You guys need a loss. I need to win. So let's all be on the same page today.
I know. I figure Tavares is going to light it up tonight. He'll play well against his old team. Yeah.
Besides the point. Go ahead, Dad.
No, you're good, Chaz. Yeah, that's an incredible story. One of the things that you're very deliberate about with everybody is calling yourself a mindset coach rather than a mental game coach. What's the distinction, and why does that matter to you?
Yeah, well, I've called myself a mental fitness trainer for years, and that seemed to be a really good approach towards it because it was about training. Just like physical fitness, I felt that mental fitness was the ideal, terminology for really what we're trying to do, which is train the brain to think a little bit differently. Lately, and literally, we're talking within the last six months or so, I've changed that to more mindset coaching or mindset training, mainly because there still seems to be a bit of a stigma around the mental approach to things, and just the word itself sometimes carries it shouldn't, but sometimes it carries a negative feeling. And there's a lot of parents out there who look at it and say, well, there's nothing wrong with my child. I'm not going to, they don't need a mental coach, So it's more, it's semantics more than anything, to be quite honest with you. But it is about mindset, and everything I think about now as I sort of continue to evolve into the business is mindset is all about, it's training the mind. And so it's there's mental illness, there's mental health. Both of them are very different. And for me, mindset just made a little more sense. And I think it's a little bit easier on a lot of people's minds. So that's what we do.
Yeah, I think I know we talked about this when we were out in BC, but I think that you're absolutely right. Like this, the stigma around the word mental, is so big that when people hear mental coach, you're absolutely right. Like people think that there's an issue with you. It's like, well, no, you're just training your brain basically, to rethink and analyze situations differently than what you're programmed to. So I do think that it's an important distinction, and I hope that subtle word change helps players, even just reach out to you, just have a simple conversation, and then see if it leads somewhere. Because I do think that a lot of players can benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you're absolutely right, and it's unfortunate there is a stigma, and I work. I think you guys know that I work both in golf and hockey, and it's a huge thing in hockey as well. A lot of people are being held back because they're afraid to step into the space, and it's amazing because the mindset game is very often the differentiator between truly having success in sport and not, and a lot of people, they get in their own way. And it's literally between their ears, and it's not rocket science, and so much of what I teach isn't rocket science. In fact, it can be really fun, and it can change you exponentially. And if people just leaned in a little more and sort of committed to it a little more, I think they'd find exponential value in it. And so yeah, maybe if we see it as mindset training instead of mental training, so to speak, we'll have better success. That's the hope.
And I think even just like in the sports world, it kind of makes more sense. Like it's what mindset you have on the golf course, what's going to benefit you. Like it's going in with that right mentality instead of going in like I went into tournaments thinking I was going to lose every single time. Maybe having a little different of an outlook might have helped me out a little bit going into the events.
Yeah, and that's, you think about that, right? Like that's a key issue of what I work on a lot with is a lot of players go in with the attitude of don't make mistakes, right? As opposed to have success. And it's a simple little switch. And it takes training because we've been taught to, through our own errors, we've been taught to realize that mistakes are bad. And so now we're focusing on, if I make a mistake, that's bad. I can't make a mistake. So you stand on the tee and you think, don't put it in the water, don't put it in the water. Where does it go? It goes in the water because you're putting your focus on it. Right? So you need to retrain your brain to refocus on these things. And that's a big part of obviously what mental or mindset trainers do.
Have you noticed like the change in the wording has helped like just start the conversation with people that you are working with, whether it's the UBC team or someone that reaches out from us? Like, has that wording helped? Like the wording change helped?
It's so new. It's kind of interesting because I'm active on social media. I'm on TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn, and literally the last few posts, and we're talking about the last month or so, that I've changed things to mindset in the verbiage that I've been using. The activity on those has increased. So I'm not sure if it's just coincidental or potentially it is, but I think that it helps for sure.
That
Yeah,
definitely could be an algorithm thing too, in
Could
terms
be.
of mental, and that goes back to the stigma. Specifically, you see all these mental health related days. In terms of the stigma, and this is just pure speculation, this could be actual fact or something that you've picked up on as well, Mike. But outside of those specific mental health awareness days, I don't. It's might be more stigmatized outside of those, like the mental health in general. So when the algorithm sees that outside of like
Mhm.
Bell Let's Talk or specific mental health awareness days, they might be more suitable to pick up mindset rather than mental. That's just pure speculation. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
based in any
Yeah.
fact at all.
Yeah, and I don't know how those algorithms do work, but I'm sort of starting to learn a little bit, and I think you're absolutely right. Is when you do something a little unique, it picks up on it and it actually pushes it a little farther for you. So hopefully that's the case. We'll see.
Absolutely. Well, I hope
Yeah,
that is too.
yeah,
I would say algorithm tip: don't log on to Instagram for 30 minutes after you post. It's really helpful.
I think
good to know.
I don't know if it is either. I've seen so many different things. I'm still learning the social media game, as we all are. But there's times I want to post to breathe a bit. I have to text the boys saying, please stay off both JPT and your personal Instagrams for about 30 minutes to an hour, just to let it breathe, to see how it goes. Once again, it's like a 50% success rate, if that's even the case, and usually it's probably just depending on the quality of the content in itself.
Yeah, there you
Sorry,
go.
sorry, Blake. That just popped in my head. I had to say
No, that's
it.
that's totally fair. We're on the conversation of algorithms, so that's a totally fair point to make, Shaz.
Mm.
So I know from my experience and just obviously working the events, you see it all the time where there's players that really like they'll go out every single practice round, they'll shoot 6 under, they'll play great, but then as soon as they get in tournaments, they're kind of getting in their own way. What does like the first steps for you when you start working with a player? What does it look like when they start working with you in terms of just kind of getting to know them and kind of making those first steps into like the working on your mindset?
Yeah, and the first step's really getting to know them and understand what their tendencies are, right? Like there's a lot of people. I have a an athlete mindset aptitude profile that I send out, and I have every golfer fill out ahead of time. A series of 20 questions, 25 questions that sort of ask and get an idea of where they line with regards to how much pressure do they take on before. Do they get anxious during? Is there, there's a series of different questions that helps me sort of gauge and understand where they're at. But having conversations with them, even sometimes the numbers they put down there and who they are becomes very different. And that's where really getting to know them is super important. So, and you guys know that every single time that I look to work with a new client, I'll sit down with them for 30 minutes or 45 minutes and have a conversation because I need to get to know who they are and they need to feel comfortable with me. Because if we're not working together properly and we're on the same level and we're able to open to share with one another, we're not going to have the success. And I think most mindset coaches who are in this space, they will do that before they put any kind of package and charge anybody for anything. And I think that's really important. But it's a matter of getting to know their tendencies, who they are, how they operate, what upsets them, where their miss is. And when I say their miss, I say mentally where their miss is, not just on the golf course, but also understanding where their struggles are on the golf course is really important. Focus is probably the biggest, most important thing that we do work on. And right now with junior golf for sure, the biggest issue that I see is just results, is everybody's results focused. And I get, it's you're trying to get a scholarship. It's about results. It's about the numbers, and it's super important. But one thing I need to remind so many people is how do you get to the results? And a lot of people, a lot of players don't see that. Is how do we get to the results? We get to the results by being present in every single shot, making really good decisions, and having good ball striking. And so those are the things that we sort of work on, and we develop, depending on where their struggles are, we'll develop a series of different habits and daily success habits and SATs, I call them, smart attainable targets, that you can do every single day, because it's like the muscles of our body. We need to train the brain to do something over and over and over again before we're going to create automation. And that's the whole idea. Create new habits. I always say a habit is a new action repeated. And so you need to create new actions to create new habits. And if you don't like what you're getting, you need to do something different. And it's, again, it's not rocket science, but it's stuff we don't do. So I teach them and give them certain tools or tricks that they can apply and practice on a daily basis to create new habits and create automation. Because once you do that, when you're standing on the tee and you used to be nervous, you might still feel the same feelings, but now you see it as excitement instead of nervousness. It's a totally different game,
Oh yeah.
right? And if your focus is on so much on your process and your routine, for example, then you're not getting tied up in the outside noise and worried about the anxieties, and you're a little more focused. You stay more present. Bottom line is, if you can teach yourself to be present, you will play better golf. And a lot of junior golfers right now don't stay present because they're so focused on either what they did the last shot, or the score and what they're going to do next. And they need to be present if they're going to have success. Bottom line.
Yeah, that's definitely a great way to look at it. So I'm trying to figure out how to ask this, but like, what role do parents play? We all have stories of parents over the years of, stuff they've done, stuff they haven't done. Do they make it better or worse? How do you navigate that? I mean, I know from my experience, you have some parents that are, all over their junior, watching every single shot, like talking to them sometimes during the rounds, which obviously we don't like, but post rounds, we've seen parents like yelling at players. We've also seen parents that don't even show up on the property, just let their kid go and play. We've seen some that show up but walk so far ahead that they're seeing, one or two shots around, and they're just out there supporting, seeing if they need anything. What role do parents play, and how do you deal with the parent aspect of things?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I could say to parents, I've said this to multiple parents, they don't always like it, is that your number one job as a parent is to take the pressure off your child. And that's a really important one to think about as a parent. Take the pressure off your child. So you have to ask yourself, are you putting the pressure on your child by potentially berating them after a round, or being in their face constantly on the golf course, which is not taking the pressure off your child. It's actually putting more pressure on your child. If your child is driven to play this sport and play this sport really, really, really well, they are going to want it themselves. So I will tell you a little story. I wrote a book years ago called Mental Fitness Training for Hockey Coaches, and Get Your Head in the Game, it's called. And in there, I write a story because I was that parent. So I played high level hockey when I was a kid. My son was really, really good at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old in hockey, like really good. He could score goals. He was a good player. And so I had a vision that I had turned down a scholarship opportunity, turned down a pro contract in Italy once, and I didn't want him to miss out on the same opportunities that I had. All well and good, in my perspective, you want to give the best to your kids. And so I was the parent who was pushing him into hockey, and I coached for him, and I drove him, and I tried to really be the dad who was supporting him as best I possibly could. What I realized, though, it wasn't his dream, it was my dream. And I think a lot of parents, unfortunately, both in hockey, golf, and in all kinds of sports, we put ourselves, because we only know what we know. And so we believe that because we love this and we had the opportunity to do this, we might have just missed it. That we see talent in our kids, and we want to push them. We want to do the best for them. We're doing it for the right reason. But sometimes we miss the fact that it's more our dream than it is our kid's dream. And so when my son, he got cross-checked in a game and got the wind knocked out of him, and he came to me that night and says, "I don't want to play anymore." And I was absolutely devastated. And I didn't realize at the time, I thought I was handling it well, but I probably not. I was crushed. And so when he picked up golf, I just stepped back. And I said, you're driving the bus here, buddy. I will support you absolutely. But I learned my lesson. I do not want to be that parent who's pushing my child like that. And so I stepped away from it, and I let him do it. And lo and behold, he's a pro now. As you guys know, he's the head pro at Tangle Creek Golf Course in Barrie, and he's been there for 14 years. He played on the junior tours. He went to Fanshawe College. He's the 2018 college golf champion. That's his claim to fame so far. And I'm super proud of him. But he drove the bus because he truly wanted. He went to school for golf management. He just loved the game of golf, and so couldn't be prouder and see the direction he went. Had I pushed him in golf, he probably, I don't know, it's hard to say, you don't do it twice, but would he have been where he is now? Who knows, right? Certainly he didn't go hockey when I pushed him. So lesson learned. So there's a lot of things for parents to be able to take away and understand. Are you doing this for your child, or are you doing this for yourself? That's a big one. It's a big one to admit, and it's a big one to even ask sometimes. But it's that's probably the biggest challenge that I face with parents, for sure.
I'm glad you brought that up on two different fronts, Mike. One, because it shows that you have the parental experience as well. Like you live what you preach. Back in the day, I know your kids are older now. This was a while ago, but like you just said, you made those mistakes. Like you said, mistakes aren't bad to make. You made those mistakes as a parent. Now you're there as a resource for parents, and that leads into my next point. You're not just for players. You say whatever player comes to you from JBT, you're half working with either them, depending on what they want, the player themselves, or the parent. I think that's such a good resource for any parent listening right now. It was like, how do I get my kid with Mike? It could also be you. And if that's something that you want to learn more how to do, it can learn the boundaries and expectations as a parent. Mike is such a great resource for you because he's personally lived it, as you just mentioned.
I did not see you being a crazy parent, Mike. That threw me off guard. Just kind of touching on that.
I kind of see it.
People can change. People can change.
Yeah, clearly, there you go. All right, that's good. I was just going to say on that front, like, so when I grew up playing tournaments, my parents, after the first one, I told them, like, you're not allowed on the golf course. Not because they did anything. Like, they didn't say a word. They didn't even react when I hit a bad shot. Just seeing them there on the course, like, if I hit a bad shot, I'd look back at them, look for the reaction. Like, if I hit a good shot, I'd look back, look at them. So I think sometimes the parents don't even have to do anything. Like, the players are going to put enough pressure on themselves to hopefully impress their parents. Like, even hockey, I was more mad after a bad game than my parents were. But it's just, like, how do you help the player kind of manage that side of it? Because, like, whether my parents care or not, I wanted to do well to kind of impress them. Like, how does that aspect kind of work?
Yeah, and to Blake's point with regards to, I will sit down with parents, and I try to sit down with parents wherever possible to be able to sort of get an idea where they're coming from and what's driving them and so forth. And I think that it's a tricky situation because there's a lot of kids who are playing for their parents, right? And they are constantly looking for approval. And I don't want to say to parents, stay away from the course, but at the same time, this is a slightly different topic, but the same, is that parents will say certain things to their kids. And they might even be saying the right things. But the way they're presenting themselves or the way they're feeling is very different than what they're saying. My dad used to say to me years and years ago, don't do as I do, do as I say. But what do you do as a kid? You emulate what they do. So very often, unknowingly, it's a bit of a blind spot for us as parents, is we're doing things differently than what we're saying. And we need to be very cognizant of our actions and our words aligning with one another. If they are, terrific. If not, we need to sort of sit back, and I call it taking pause, and check yourself and say, am I feeling one way but saying something completely different? If you are, you're confusing the child, right? So you need to be careful on that end of it. And I think that kids just pick up on, what do they say, from 0 to 7 years of age. That's when you learn most of the things, most of your default responses to things in your life. Not to say you can't change that stuff, because I'm a huge believer that you can change anything. You just need to look at it a little bit differently. So yeah, it's such a tricky one. If a parent is open and willing to have the conversation, it generally works because they truly want the most for the kids. And I think most parents do. Sometimes they're kind of in their own way too, so to speak. And what can you do right now, right? And that's the way I look at it. Regardless of what you've done before, what can you do right now to be 1% better? And then if we can do that every single day and be better, we're going to change eventually over time. I did. I was a little bit driven the wrong way, and I literally implemented the same things I teach right now, and it's changed my life exponentially. And
it's never too late. There's never a bad time to do it as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Everything's your choice. I used to say something to myself over and over again: I choose, I decide. And it was literally, I choose how I'm going to feel. I choose and I decide what I'm going to think. Lots of people will tell you what to think, but at the end of the day, we get to choose and what feels right. And, one of the questions I ask all my clients, and it's a huge part of my coaching, is what do you want and why do you want it? And if you understand and get clear on your purpose, what you want and why you want it, and probably the why is more important. You need to understand why. Why is this driving you? What is it that you're trying to get from it? It's like success shows up, and a lot of times people just move on to the next, move on to the next, move on to the next. But if we, and I forget who said it, lots of people have said it, and it's, I don't know who said it recently, but success without fulfillment is failure. And so I'm a huge proponent of excuse me, recognizing when you have success, how does that feel to you? Are you truly fulfilled? And what is fulfillment to you? And if it fulfills you and truly fills your cup and brings you joy, then you're doing success right. If it doesn't and you're worried about what's next, you need to maybe have a little bit of a tweak and figure it out, because you're never going to be satisfied. And so I try and find and try and teach the ways to be able to find satisfaction within what we're doing. I think that goes for parents and it goes for players as well. You need to find satisfaction along the way, because if you're constantly striving for more and more and more and more, you forget about the little things along the way. It's literally about being a little more present in the moment, and that's kind of the if you haven't heard already, that's sort of the nuts and bolts of my business, is keeping you present. That's Eckhart Tolle said it years and years ago in a great book, The Power of Now. He says, yesterday's a past now and tomorrow's a future now. What can you control about either of those? Not a single thing. You can only control the moment you're in. So let's be the best possible version of ourselves in this moment. And for golf, that goes to the only thing you can control is this shot you're hitting. So make a really good decision, put the best swing on it, and then move to the next and repeat. That's all you can do. And you do that in a game of golf, you play better golf than you ever will.
I'm going to use that same advice when I play later today, and hopefully going to bounce back to my terrible round last week with Ty and Shaw's. So thank you, Mike.
Good luck with that. I was just going to kind of move on to like the UBC stuff. So you started working with the UBC team recently. How's that been going? And like, how different is it to do like work a team aspect as opposed to just working with like individual athletes?
Yeah, teams are interesting, right? Because you've got dynamics of all the different players, and university is an interesting one to begin with, because you think about, especially a lot of first years, you move from high school, you move from in the world of golf's your life, and you have high school, and not that high school is not difficult, but it's certainly a very different animal than university is, and you get into university, and now the workload has changed exponentially for you. The biggest thing is the fact that you don't have your parents to drive you. You don't have your parents to support you. You're on your own now. You've never been on your own before. So you've got to not only handle a bigger workload from class perspective, but now you've got to also, you're a varsity athlete. You've got to deal with that as well, and the restrictions and the pressures and the time commitment on that. It's a huge balance for a lot of these kids. So what I'll find is when I coach university kids, it's a matter of finding the balance for them and sort of getting them into a routine. And so that becomes different, most definitely for anybody. But then when you become a varsity athlete, for example, there's a huge time commitment. You got to really balance it. And you got to really, keep yourself organized. And I think that's probably the most important thing and we talk about preparation all the time for golf. Preparation for life is key, right? If you've checked off the things that you needed to do, you will play a better round of golf. If you've got this concept in the back of your head that, I need to get this project in, I need to work on it, I shouldn't be here right now, you're not going to play your best round of golf. You need to either learn how to compartmentalize that stuff. Used to have one client, he would literally take all his baggage from his head and sort of open up his trunk, pull his golf clubs out, pretend he's putting it in the trunk and slam the trunk and then go to the course. So he was compartmentalizing all of his stuff. And you need to figure out ways to do that, and not necessarily throw it in the back of the trunk, but there's, mindset tools that you can do to help do that. And when we work with them, they can do a better job of that. It allows them to be better on the golf course.
It's almost like there's triggers that are bad and then bad ways, but there's triggers that are probably in good ways, right? Exactly,
Absolutely.
Right? Obviously, there's more of a negative connotation when you think of triggers, but they could be positive as well, as you just described.
Yeah. So they people call them affirmations. There's all kinds of different things that you can say or do, and actions that and certain things. Snap your fingers. You can do all kinds of different things. Whatever it means to you, it needs to mean something to you, right?
Absolutely.
some big news the other day that we saw is that you launched into a partnership with ProLinks, which is, I think, great for both of you guys. I was talking to Alex from ProLinks the other day, and I was like, man, that's so good for you guys, so good for the players that they work with. So congratulations on that. How do you see the mindset side connecting to the recruitment process with the ProLinks players?
Yeah, I think that recruiting is kind of an interesting model. It's you speak to so many people in the sort of NCAA loop, for example, and what are players looking, or what are coaches looking for, right? And they always talk about we're looking for scores in high pressure situations, in long courses, and they're and the very first thing they talk about is score. Which I understand there needs to be a guideline by which we get in, and score is it. But I go back to what I said a little bit earlier, is that if we understand how the scores are developed and what the scores result from, and put more focus on that, we will find that players will play better golf, and they will have better scores. And I've said this to many people, is that when you play your best golf, you almost feel as though it wasn't that hard. You didn't work that hard. It just came naturally to you. Well, that's the mind space that you want to try and create as best as you can. Reality is, you're not going to create it every time. You need to know what your B game is and your C game is, and so forth. But the mental part of the game is so key to help people get to better scores, and they don't recognize that, I think. I wish that more schools would put emphasis on the right fits for kids, because there's, one school may go from one year to the next year. They may lose a ton of senior players, and they're only bringing in rookies. And sometimes that doesn't always work. Sometimes you're bringing in more of a high-end score-only kid, but maybe you need somebody who's a little more personal, a little more team-oriented. And I think that's where, and I think really good recruiters do that. They look for mixes and figure out how they match the team, how they make it. I sort of look at the Toronto Blue Jays from last year, right? They were a team because they gelled in so many different ways. They all ended up having huge success. Why? Because they got along really well. And that's sort of the team environment. And I think good recruiters are on that. And I'm excited to be just a part of it, and sort of guide a few players, if I can, into opportunities. So we'll see where it goes.
Speaking for both Ty and Shaz, we were super excited to see that collaboration between you and the boys over at ProLinks. To me, it felt like two of my close friends became friends themselves, which I loved. I don't know if I'm sure the boys felt that way as well, but no, the guys over at ProLinks are awesome, and you're awesome, so we were really happy to see that.
That's good. I love Alex. He's good. I'm looking forward to working with him. I hope that and I anticipate that we're going to be able to develop some really good kids together, and get them into some awesome places.
Just touching.
Sorry, sure.
Just touching quickly on the recruiting process and just the team aspects. I think one thing that a lot of players forget when they're trying to get recruited is it is very much a team game in college. It's not just about yourself. So having being a good teammate, the character portion is a big part of it. We've talked about this with Dickie in one of the earlier episodes, where a kid gets disqualified from something and they're freaking out because they think it's the end of the world. They're going to get screwed out of getting recruited now. But it's how you deal with those things to show that you can bounce back. Those are big parts of getting recruited. It's not just your score. It's kind of being a team player. So I think that's a big thing that the mindset can help you going into just having the right mental tools to go in there. Hey, I got to be a part of a team. Could be a big change for players to help once they're actually in college.
Yeah, when my son was, I think he was 13 or 14 years old, we were lucky enough to be invited to a Hank Haney training event, and one of the things that Hank had said, which I thought was really, really powerful and still sticks with me right now, is he always said, I want to see a player, and he was talking about recruitment and so forth. He said, I want to see a player play at their worst, because how they respond in the worst situations when they don't have their A games, and when they have their C or D games showing up, how they respond is what a lot of these teams are looking for. To your point, it's about the character, it's about your values, it's about how you step in after a bad round, it's how you support everybody else, even though you may not have brought your best. And that was really powerful to me. And when he had said that to us, I thought, yeah, that's something I'm going to hang on to. And I do at this point. And if I have the opportunity to go out and actually watch some of the players that I coach, and a lot of what I do is over Zoom like this, but if I have the opportunity to actually see them play, I want to see them play. And I kind of hope they don't play great, because I want to see how they react. And so much of what I teach is about body language. It's about how you present yourself after a bad shot. And that determines, in a lot of cases, the results that you'll have. And it's little tiny things, but it's walk away from the shot you just put in the water like you just hit it on the green. You know what I mean? You do that and you will change your energy, you will change your demeanor, you will have a better round of golf. But it's practice. It takes time, right? That's the whole thing.
Mike's out here like fist pumping bad shots by his players. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm not doing that, but no, that's a good point, Mike.
Not quite, but it is. I mean, you guys see it all the time, right? In the junior ranks, someone hits a bad shot, their shoulders drop, they swing a club, they're just colleges don't want to see that. You know, the colleges want to see people that are under control, and that's part of the mindset game, and you need to work on that if you're going to have success.
At university. Sorry, Blake, go ahead.
Well, like Shaw's mentioned with our conversation with Chris Dickinson a while ago, coaches a lot of the times look how you bounce back from those shots. Like
100%.
if you have a bad round, say you should blow up, you shoot in the 80s, 90s. They're only important how you're going to show up the next day. If that's going to wreck your entire week, then they're going to be very less incentivized to pick you, because that's going to screw their team. So that's a really good point you made there, Mike. I like all the points I've been saying.
Yeah, and I think just kind of touch on that, where like at university, you came out the last day, just kind of stop in and say hi, and I was talking to you about the one player that was in the lead and then ended up getting a 2-shot penalty for playing the wrong tees, and your first question was, "Oh, what you get on the next hole? Like, how'd she bounce back?" I kind of want to go see how she's doing since then. So like that's a mentality that I don't think the players have. Like she ended up actually recovering pretty well, played well on the back nine, but like that's a good mentality going into it, where people don't necessarily think to look at how you're doing after the big problem. I know if that happened to me in a tournament, I was probably done for the rest of the day. So
your ability to reset in the golf course is one of the most powerful abilities to help you score well in golf and play well in golf. If you can bounce back from a mistake, if you can laugh it off, if you can not take yourself too seriously, and that's one of the biggest issues that we deal with junior golf is golfers taking themselves too seriously. And we've made the game almost too hard and too difficult and then too serious. And I think that if you can have fun playing the game and you can laugh at yourself a little bit, you will play better golf. There's no question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of wrapping things up here. So if you're a parent listening to this podcast and they have a player that's competing in the junior ranks at a pretty serious level, what's the one thing that you'd want them to take away from this chat?
Don't be crazy, Mike.
Yeah, it's wow, so many things. I mean, from a parent perspective, it's the concept of you're there to support your child. You know, are you taking the pressure off of your child from a parent's perspective? That would be the one thing that I'd want a parent to take away from this. From a mindset game perspective, it's about being as present as you possibly can in the moment as a player. And if you can teach your child to dial it back and reset and understand that, and I like to think there's 3 elements to it. It's decisions that you make, right? It's the swing that you make, and it's how you respond to it. And so if you can start using those three things to the best of your ability, you'll play the best golf you've ever played. There's no question. Yeah.
Cool.
Make good decisions. It's everything.
I was just going to ask you one more question, kind of more on our side. What do you think, like, what role do you think like a junior, like people that work in a junior tour like us have in kind of developing players when it comes to the mindset? Like how can we help?
Keep it light for them. And I know you guys do. And that's the best part is you a little bit like parents, take the pressure off of them, right? You know, keep and you guys are awesome at that. That's what I love about interacting with you guys. You're all about making it comfortable. And if they're more comfortable, it helps ease the stress, because when they put the stress on themselves, and you know, it's sort of the nature of the game. You show up to a golf course, it's stressful. Well, it doesn't need to be. It's golf. We're here to play golf. We're here to have fun. Let's make the environment conducive to enjoyment. And I think you guys do a great job, but I would say that's probably the most important thing for you guys is to keep it easy for the kids.
Great.
At the end of the day, it's at the end of the day, it's still a game. So
Absolutely.
you know, we're trying to obviously still run, you know, professional tournaments, and it's still an elite field that we have, and the players are competitive and trying to win, but it's still about fun at the end of the day. And I think all of us can agree on that. The more fun that the players have, the better it is for everybody.
Absolutely. And honestly, the more fun the players have, the better they're going to play, whether or not they know that or not. But yeah, you think about the best rounds you guys ever played, it was probably a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, not so
like
much
beating
for
Blake
us,
last
not
week
so
in
much for
BC.
you
We
guys,
had me and Shazi had a lot of fun.
I'm surprised it took this long for that to come up, actually. So.
Got it out in the pod yesterday. So,
Yeah. Well, Mike,
cool.
if we have nothing else to say, that's a good place to leave it. Before we go, though, how can we plug you in the best way possible at Yellow Card Coach on all your social medias?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best place to see me is on social media, and it's you know, I mentioned in the beginning that sort of the different paths that I had, and for a lot of the posts that I do, because I'm also I'm a mindset coach, I'm a law of attraction life coach, and I'm also a grief and loss educator, and the concept of grief and loss and change is something that I didn't realize how valuable it would be into the sports world, because you think about all of a sudden you have no longer the ability to hit a fairway. That's lost. And so some of the tools that I've incorporated from the grief and loss world, and I speak a little bit on some of my social media about grief and loss and different areas. It's not all golf focused, but so much of what I talk about relates back to the golf game, relates back to every aspect of life. And we talked about the beginning. It's not about just teaching golfers to be better on the golf course. It's life skills. It's teaching them to be better people off the golf course too. And that's going to bode well for them. I'm a big proponent of what you take on course, you need to take off course too. What's your personal brand? Who are you? What's important to you?
I'm going to need some grief and loss counseling after this next week of Islanders losses. So I'll be hitting you up next week probably.
He's so dramatic.
Yeah. So Yellow Card Coach is the key. You can find me there, and yellowcardcoach.com is my website as well.
Well, Mike, this has been amazing. Go ahead.
Sorry, Blake.
Yeah.
And on our Instagram, Yellow Card Coach tip of the week before every tournament will be on our stories. So take a look at that.
Absolutely.
No, I suggest every parent, every player, check Mike out. Reach out to him if you have any questions. You're so easy to talk to, so available for parents and players, even if it's just a phone call just to see what they're looking for. So I suggest all players, parents, and anyone listening to this to check out Mike and look at his services. Mike, thanks so much for joining the tournament committee. We appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me, guys. This is awesome. I love you guys. You guys are doing such a great thing. Keep doing it, and I love being a part of it.